Great. Thanks everyone for joining. Like I said earlier, we're going to be going over grant reporting as well as the Student Summer Impact Series. If you have any questions, feel free to just come off mute and let me know what they are, but let's jump right into it. So we all know what the purpose of the mini grant is, especially after all this time. I really appreciate the time and effort you all are putting into these projects, and I'm excited to see what they come to, what you all have learned from them, the stories that you all would like to tell, and the information you would like to share, and also how I think these projects can go further than even what you've done in these months and potentially be things that, go further on your campuses or with your nonprofits that you've partnered with. So before we get started, I think we're kind of in an interesting space where it's important to remind ourselves why we do what we do, whether that's on a personal level or with the causes that we find important to us, important to the communities that we support, important in our journey as leaders and civically engaged individuals. And so I wanted to give people a chance to share, I think, what I would consider words of encouragement right now, or mantras that you say maybe to yourself to keep your own spirits up. I actually stole this idea from Will, but he called it a mirror mantra. And it's kind of things that you repeat to yourself maybe on a regular basis, to yourself or to your community members in order to keep your spirits up, in order to keep your momentum going on your journeys. And so if you had one that you think would be beneficial to the group or would be useful for other folks to use for themselves or their own communities, I wanted to offer people an opportunity to share that here. You see this picture on the screen. It's from the movie The Help. He was kind, he was smart, he was important, and it was just a pretty, I think, impactful statement for someone to say, especially in a world that doesn't always remind you of these things. And people can say unkind things that make you forget that. And I'm happy to share my own personal mantra, or the one I use for myself personally is actually on my laptop here. And it says that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. That mantra reminds me what the people who came before me did to get as far as they did and did to get me as far as I am, and how I want to respect that sacrifice and know that I want to make my own changes in the world for generations yet to come as well. So if anyone has, a mantra or anything to share, uh, I want to open the floor for that. Don't feel pressured, but if you have something, feel free to come off mute.
The one that I kind of think about a lot is no matter how bad you think you have it, there's always someone that is in a worse situation. So if you can do something to make their life better, why not take the opportunity to help make things better?
That's beautiful, Lauren. Thank you for sharing. I really like that. Okay, I can't see you all, so I am waiting. So if there's someone who would like to go, I'm giving it a moment. But if that is everyone who would like to share, thank you very much for participating. We can jump right into today's agenda. Okay. So just a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. We just did the check-in. I'm just going to give you an update on the timeline and things to come forward in the future. We're going to talk a bit about the Student Summer Impact Series, if that is something you would like to participate in. And then we're also going to talk about grant reporting and how you can use that to tell the story of your community impact project. And of course, stay after for any questions you may have related to this specific session, or I know you all might have just questions in general about mini grant stuff or funding. So please feel free to stay on. Just some brief updates really quickly. I will be sending out an email shortly. I apologize in advance. It's probably going to be a lengthier one, but there are just some questions that I need answered via a couple of surveys. And so one of them is going to be about your funding. That's going to be particularly important. It shouldn't take like super long for you to fill out, but I'm just asking you all to keep an eye on your inboxes for the rest of the day or at some point later today or tomorrow to check them, I mean. Um, and then I also wanted to tell you all that there have been, adjustments to folks' community impact projects due to issues that have come up that either they have been able to anticipate or some that they haven't been able to anticipate, as well as, funding delays and things like that. And so you do have until June 30th to complete it. So if you have to adjust your timeline within that, that is fine. And please, just communicate that with me. And then I'll also have a request for you all to fill out a survey regarding just kind of a general check-in on where you are with your project. Some of you all haven't been able to meet in person, so I just want to give you another way to communicate with me and give me an update on how things are going. This will also be an opportunity to update things around the Student Summer Impact Series and how you would want to do your grant reporting. Right. So as far as the timeline is concerned, we'll jump into April. We're starting with this storytelling and grant reporting happening now. I will be providing future one-on-one dates. I know some folks have requested more one-on-one times, so I'm going to be adding some of those soon, and they will also be shared out in the upcoming email. And then for the months of May and June, for those who are electing to participate in the showcase, I want to invite them to a public speaking workshop. Just to make sure that you feel comfortable for the showcase if you decide to participate in it. I suppose you can attend the workshop if you are not participating in the showcase as well. If you just want tips on public speaking, that's up to you. It's open to all of you all. But that will be one specifically for folks in the showcase. And then we'll also have the showcase dates here. So it's going to be June 10th, 17th, and 24th. Those are all Tuesdays in the month of June, and the showcase will be about an hour. I'll go over in more detail what that will look like and from you all and how you'll sign up for your specific dates and time slots to present. And as a reminder, all funds need to be submitted by June 30th. All right. So there is going to be a survey sent out this afternoon that is going to pretty much be if you want to participate in the survey, if you don't want to participate in the survey and you'd like to do some alternative form to showcase what it is you've done for your community impact project, that option will be there as well. The other options are blog post or a Canva article or being able to do kind of like a video interview that would be very similar to what you would do in a showcase, except you wouldn't have to do it with an audience and you'd be able to do it more flexibly, like on your own time. So those would be like alternative projects to the showcase. And then you will all be writing an actual report to show what you've done with your community impact project. I do have a survey for you all to fill out, and I'm going to drop it in the chat once I go through this. If you all want to fill it out now and get a bit of a jump on the game, you can. As far as reporting requirements, this is kind of just an overview of what that final report will be, and this is that written aspect of the report. So as a part of your mini grant, you need to write a 4-part report capturing your project, its impact, as well as the final project and the final budget. I would say these reports on average are about anywhere from 5 pages to 9 pages double spaced, but it's broken up into what I consider 4 pretty clear sections. The 4 sections are the narrative, the evaluation section, the final budget, and the personal takeaway and reflection. So these reports are going to be due to me via email, and I'm also going to give you all in this email that I'll send out later, someplace else you can upload these reports as well. And they will also be due June 30th, 2025, 5 p.m. If your project is already completed, done well before then, go ahead and get a jump on it, submit it earlier. I don't mind that at all. If your project is maybe taking place in the month of June or later, and you need more time to work on that, it's still okay to get a jump on it and start on your outline or something like that. That way, if you do have to do some of the writing closer to the due date, you maybe don't feel quite as overwhelmed or anything like that, but it's anywhere from 5 to 9 pages typically. To give you kind of some tips on what each section is looking like, first we have the narrative section. So this section can range anywhere from like 2 to 4 pages, and will cover things like the background and context of your project, what needs were being addressed, the implementation plan, so milestones, the partners you worked with, who participated in it, things like that, unexpected obstacles you may have faced, and the successes that you've had, as well as the current status of your project or any future plans you have for the program. So I know some folks are thinking about like what this program could look like if their university could continue it on as like an annual thing, or what could this continued relationship with this community partner look like? So those are things that you might want to include in this narrative section to highlight where this project could go in the future. We never know exactly who is even listening in these spaces, so I think it's great to highlight that. Some tips around the narrative section is that realize that this is kind of the core section of your report. This is where you captivate the reader to want them to learn more about the subject matter and the issue that you're trying to tackle. Don't worry so much about the length, focus more on content. And if someone was to know absolutely nothing, how could you give them a very like high level overview of what this project is about? I almost think of it as kind of like, let's say I was very, very passionate about solving world hunger, which I would love to do. I'm just giving this as an example though. I was very passionate about solving world hunger, and I walked up to someone who knew absolutely nothing about the issue of folks being hungry. Absolutely nothing about it. And I needed to also share with them the importance of this and why it's something that they should care about in the next 5 minutes. What would I say? What were the things I would feel absolutely need to be included? That's kind of how I think about the narrative section. All right, then you have the evaluation section. So that will be the next 1.5 to, if you want, all the way to 3 pages. This would talk about the process and measures used to assess your project. You could share the results of the project evaluation. So any surveys you took or anything like that, to think about how many people participated in it. What did they walk away from it, especially if your project has like learning elements. I know a lot of you are doing mentoring projects and things of that nature. That would be a great place to share those types of results. And then another key element of evaluation will be a report on the ways that the project impacted the participants and community and the magnitude of that impact. So you can feel free to attach, evaluation forms that you use, surveys that you use. Maybe it's more annotative and shown with like photographs or interviews that you were able to connect with participants who are comfortable having, some of their story shared. If you used data charts that you created or anything like that, this is the section that you want to put those types of things in here. Some tips around this evaluation section are, again, worry less about the length, more about the quality of your content. Um, this is where you want to think about what we talked about as far as evaluation in the last session, and how you want to measure your impact, and measure the type of impact you're having on the communities that you're working with. Um, This section I think is very vital because it can include things like data, testimonials, interviews, survey examples, photographs from your events, things that you really think showcase the impact that this has had. And then lastly, make sure you want to answer this question. What impact did this make and how do we know? Um, so those are the tips for the evaluation section. I know I've been talking for a bit, so I want to pause to see if anyone has any questions or anything like that.
Is it okay if we write the evaluation section based off of the impact that it had on the community partner rather than the participants in the event?
Can you expand a little bit more on what you're thinking?
So, like, hosting a webinar to kind of talk about the stray animal crisis, and I have the founder of the rescue coming. The money went to supplies for the rescue, and I was going to crunch a little bit of numbers with her to see how far the money would go, like how many X amount of cats would this food and litter take care of for how long. So
Mm.
could that be the evaluation section of the impact that it had on the organization and why that impact is important?
Yeah, I think that makes more sense for your project.
Okay, thank you.
Talk more about the impact that had on the community partner. Um, Maybe in that same lane, I would tie in even what this organization's kind of mission statement and goal is, and how that therein, I guess, maybe has an impact in like the surrounding community potentially. But I would see how the bulk of your project will probably more so talk about the impact with the community partner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions before I jump back into my spiel? Okay. So the next section is the final budget. So this will be the opportunity for you to share your final budget in a Google folder that will also be coming out in the email. Um, you'll want to talk about any major differences from pretty much what you proposed as your project. So if there's been changes, whether it's in spending or direction or anything like that, that should be noted in the final budget. You can explain that in the comment section area. You should upload your receipts also to this folder to verify your expenses. If there's like a unique situation where you don't necessarily have the receipt or something like that, as long as you have something available that is kind of like proof of purchase and sell and kind of like what it was and that it was a mini grant expense that like was kind of an approved thing. Um, if for some reason it's not something you're able to upload, it's just important that you hold on to those documents should I need to reach out for any type of reason at some point. I don't foresee that, but it's important to have that information. I think the best approach is if you can have everything uploaded into one folder. That way, you know that it's all in one safe space. Okay. And then also, this is a reminder that any leftover funds should be discussed with me and how you want to spend that line in the project or either send it back to Campus Compact. So if you haven't spent that money by June 30th, it does have to be returned. However, if there's like, say, a small amount of funding left over, maybe you didn't end up spending as much for your project as you anticipated, but you still want to use that funding towards like something towards that community impact project or something towards that community that you want to impact. We can talk about that and maybe seeing what we could do with that funding as well. So it doesn't go to waste. And then some quick tips. This is where all this budget tracking pays off. So you'll upload all of that information again. Any major changes, this is where you'd want to note them. Excuse me. There's a section in there will say explanation of budget expenses. So that's where you can put any explanations that you feel are needed. And you can even create your own table in the report to show anything about the budget if you're not particularly fond of like the Excel budget template, whatever format you would like to use to show it, that's fine. Um, yeah, and we have lots of ideas on how leftover funds can be utilized. So please just let us know if you're having trouble thinking about how you can, spend this last $200 before you give it back to Campus Compact. Okay. And then we have the last section, which is our personal reflection. This is the part that's most about you. It is 1 to 2 pages, about 500 words. We're just asking that you provide a reflection on the project experience, what you learned from it. How did it help you grow? What did it inspire or influence? And how you want to use this, or maybe think it could be used to continue to make change, even after this project is completed. And then this is your time to provide any gratitude for any and all parties who helped make your project possible. So your community partners, the Allstate Foundation, anything like that. This is that time to mention, maybe you worked with a student org on campus, anything like that. Um, yeah, don't skip this section. This is often what a lot of the folks who donate this money do want to know. The impact that it had on you and your community, I think, are like two of the biggest things right there. You don't have to expand in ways that aren't true, but I think that these are really authentic experiences and you can share what you gained from them, and we're excited to hear what that is. So this is a great place to put the what's next section or what you would love to do to continue the project. Like I said, you never know who's in the room, who's listening, who's reading a report. They may want to dig into this more. And I think this even ties in a bit to the Student Summer Impact Series. That is a great opportunity to get your project for a quick short amount of time in front of a lot of people who may also be interested in this subject matter, but also be interested in doing some like actual work in this subject matter. So yeah. And be sure to thank everyone. It goes a long way. So thank everyone who helped bring your project to fruition. Now we have some final presentation requirements. This part is for the Student Impact Summer Series. So as a part of your mini grant, you are required to do some form of showcase or presentation on your mini grants project and work. So this is secondary to the written report that you do. Um, I'm going to provide you all with a survey at the end of this, but this survey will allow you to pick what options you have for your kind of secondary form of showing what your project was. So here are your options here. This is the one that I think is preferred just because I think, like I said before, it's a great way for you to get your project in front of folks. And especially if you're, if you're proud of what you've done, this is a great time to be able to invite friends, family, community partners, community members will also be, inviting folks part of the Campus Compact family in order to like showcase the issues that students are currently finding to be things that they want to tackle right now, things that you want to utilize your voice for. So you have the Student Summer Impact Series. Like I said, it's 3 dates in the month of June. You would only need to participate in one of those, and selecting that date is also in the survey, so you get to mark down your preference. I am going to try to group people on a somewhat centralized theme. And by that, I mean, let's say everyone on June 10th is tackling issues regarding education. I might try to group people who are, somewhat linked in that theme because I think it makes for good storytelling for the audience. But in the survey, you'll be able to mark down what dates you are available or if you have a preference for a certain date or another. And these will be very quick, short presentations. We only have an hour, and there are a lot of you. I would like to have about 6 to 7 fellows at each one. So we would keep these presentations short, 5 to 7 minutes, maybe a minute for questions, and then we're moving on. And then, of course, you'd be able to share contact information or any follow-up if people were like specifically very interested in connecting with you about like this project that you've done. Another option, should you not be super keen on the Student Summer Impact Series, maybe your project is, or your community impact project is still in the works and will be, in the works until maybe the very last minute, so you don't want to present on it quite yet. We have other options. So you can be interviewed by a Compact staff member. I'm going to tell you that will likely be me or someone from our communications team. But you would not have to present live. It would be very similar to what you would be doing for the Student Summer Impact Series. It would just be a recorded interview, and this would be something we could share on our webpage so people can still see pretty much what you would have shared with them if you were participating in the Student Summer Impact Series. I also think it's another alternative if folks aren't particularly fond of, doing kind of a virtual presentation. You can also record yourself doing a similar presentation or can use like another interview or something like that to have it put on the website if, like timing flexibility is a thing. An additional option would be to create a 1 to 2 pager that can summarize your project / impact that you would feel comfortable having posted on Compact's website and writing a slightly longer blog for Campus Compact's website for your project. So this would be a blog post and a 1 to 2 Canva pager about your project. Now, there is like one other option, and I consider that option to be other. I don't like super say like, oh my gosh, everyone should choose other as their option. I would like you to choose from these top 3. However, if you do have something that you feel would fall into a great way to showcase your presentation. I know from conversations, a few of you are doing things that I think would be nice ways to showcase what you're doing, and they're kind of already built in as a part of your community impact project. So you could either work that into one of these options or choose it as a completely additional option as well. If you were to do that, we would need to talk about what other looks like. And I'd want you to have a pretty clear vision of what you would want to do. But let's say you are doing something related to podcasting and there's a specific interview where you talk about this community impact project. I would say that's even better than an interview. So like think on that if you would like to do an other or something like that. All right, I will also say that like I am looking for the final presentations to be returned earlier than June 30th if possible. Right now, I would like them to be returned June 20th. However, if there are folks still maybe like finishing the last bits of their community impact project because the timeline's been adjusted, or maybe it's just a later project, that's fine. But as of now, like if your project's complete, I will ask that you submit this by June 20th, just to make sure that we give ourselves some wiggle room in case I need to follow up with anyone, because everything absolutely has to be submitted by the 30th. All right, and I'll pause, just see if there are any questions about that final presentation. Okay, so let's keep going. So for the presentation, this is kind of a bit of an overview of that. So each of you who want to participate in this Student Impact Summer Series, I fully expect that you will be able to. So you'll create a PowerPoint or a slide deck, 5 to 6 minutes presentation about your fellowship project, your community impact project. You don't have to cover everything. Like I said, this is just the highlights, high level. If you wanted to share with someone for 5 minutes about this, what would you find most important and most impactful? It's a quick overview, so you can get through everyone's presentations for anyone who's present, but you will have done that like substantial overview in your end of year report. Again, this is when the Student Summer Impact Series is, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th of June. If you choose to do a video interview, many aspects of this requirement are pretty much the same. Instead of presenting your project in a meeting, you may just be asked about each section of your project in a video recording or an interview, and that will be just, kind of uploaded into your website, or up to our website, sorry. All right, so the presentation of that would go pretty much like a quick introduction, as far as your 5 to 6 minutes within the Student Summer Impact Series, or your video intro if you want to do that. Introduce yourself, name, major, quick overview of your project, the population that you served or the community that you wanted to impact. Take a minute to talk about your process. I know this is really fast, and like the time allotment may fluctuate just depending on how much of a response I get for folks who want to participate in the Student Summer Impact Series. If there are less people participating, I can allow you all to have a little bit more time. I say I can allow you all because I won't pressure you to make a longer presentation if you don't want to, but of course you can. Um, and then if we have more people participating, we'll probably stick to this shorter time frame that we have right now, just to make sure everyone has time to participate. You'll have a minute to talk about the process. What are some of the steps you took in order to implement your project? What are some of the major challenges that you faced? What lessons did you learn about the community or the project that you worked with? Maybe you learned things about yourself that you didn't even know. And then you have a minute to talk about your outcomes. So here you want to say what has changed as a result of you doing this project. Any interesting outputs, maybe like the number of people that you impacted, the data you were able to collect in there would be super useful. Events that you held, interviews that you were able to do, anything like that. You can include photos you would like, or posts that you think show the impact and the importance. All right. And then you'll have a minute to talk about kind of that future of your project, what it looks like moving forward. How will you continue in this work moving forward, or how will you continue even what you've created to leave an impact? Maybe that has something to do with how this resource will go on to have a rippling effect at your university or something like that. And now, or maybe it's more about how after we've had this event or this training, we've seen how beneficial it is, and we're working on logistics on if this is something we can make a more of an annual thing. Or maybe it's very strongly highlighted an issue that folks weren't paying attention to, whatever that may be. Um, and then also kind of like what your hopes are for that project. Mm. All right, and then you'll have personal growth, and that'll be 1, maybe 2 minutes. A couple of personal lessons, what you gained in that space. What's your key takeaways? How do you plan to apply what you learned? What you're proud of, what you're grateful for. Think about how you apply for this experience and the things you've learned about working with the community that you wanted to. All right, we'll go a quick overview of the Canva option. So you need to create a 1 to 2 page front and back handout. This will cover all like the major aspects of your project. You could use Canva if there's another format or design you want to use. That's fine as well. Canva is just a really popular one. If you'd like to use any of our logos or like are asking about color schemes that are specific to Campus Compact, reach out and let me know. I'm pretty sure I've sent a Campus Compact logo in a previous email, so you can use that. But you can reach out to me as well if you need another one. And then this Canva option would be combined with a blog post. We will probably end up sharing these like out over the summer as Compact is looking for, the student voice and how to be able to share that with our members. Um, so you may be able to do this blog post in addition to the Canva option. I would say most of you will probably be doing that. The blog post will be 500 to 1500 word, and talk about your experience, highlight it, and it'll be highlighted in our future newsletters. It may be edited or slightly revised by Compact staff, whether that's like for like formatting or just for like grammatical stuff, but anything before it's posted would be shared with you. Okay. And then just some resources to help you as you work through maybe grant reporting and telling the story of this for the first time for some of you all. You can refer back to this slide deck, of course. I'll include this in the email I send out with all the surveys. And again, I apologize, it's going to be a lengthy one. You can reach out to your Newman mentor or the mentor you're working with for this community impact project, for support. They may have and likely have experience with grant writing. You can use different tools, not necessarily to write your report. I don't want you to use them to write your report, but it's always fine to get, feedback, edit, that type of thing. Google Sheets templates are more to make your report excellent. Make sure you ask, other participants. You can, share feedback with each other. That's what the kind of like WhatsApp space is for you all to chat more informally, because it's probably more difficult to connect over email. And I'm sure you all have exchanged phone numbers and things of that nature. And then if you're, struggling or you have any questions, email me, set up some time, jump on a one-on-one slot, and let's talk through whatever it is that might be troubling you or anything you need more clarity on. I'm always happy to do that. All right, and I think that is our last slide. Yep, it is.